بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Over to aspects of worship. And so when you want something from Allah Azza wa Jal, typically what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then you're supposed to pick the times where your dua will be responded to. Whether it's in your sujood or the last third of the night, or when you're fasting and you break your fast. You're supposed to constantly, as the scholars say, beg Allah Azza wa Jal, the same way that a child will beg their parent to buy them a candy or something like that at the store. The child will keep begging the parent, and crying over and over again just so they can get the candy. When you want something from Allah Azza wa Jal, you ask once and twice, and you ask again and again and again. You keep crying and begging to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But because we're used to things happening quickly, we want to raise our hand in dua, and we want it to, whatever we want, to be there immediately with fries even, So we want things to happen quickly. And we're supposed to, put effort into it. And we're supposed to persevere constantly in asking Allah Azza wa Jal for what we need. How many of us right now, and don't put your hands up, but how many of us really will use the last third of the night to solve all our problems? How many people? Now, you just ask yourself, how many people use that as their way to solve problems? The last third of the night. So you prepare your clothes, you set your alarm clock, you go to bed early, and then you wake up in the last third of the night, and then you start to make dua, to ask Allah Azza wa Jal. And why wouldn't you solve your problems this way? No matter what else you have to do during the day physically to solve your problem, make sure that last one third of the night is part of the solution. Because Allah Azza wa Jal subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His greatness, descends down to the lower heavens and He asks, who will call upon me so I might answer? Imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking this question. Who may call upon me so I may answer? Who will ask of me so I may give him? And who will seek my forgiveness so that I may forgive him? SubhanAllah, every night this happens. Allah Azza wa Jal in His greatness is asking these questions. And what are we doing at that time? At that time we're in the deepest of sleep. People will have problems. And they'll stay up all night worrying about it. Then they'll go to bed and they'll wake up in the morning. And then try to fix it. But why didn't you wake up in the last third of the night? And ask Allah Azza wa Jal for a solution. So, and how difficult is that? Just set your alarm clock to whatever time in the early morning and get up. And pray of whatever. You don't have to be a hafiz to just get up and pray in the last third of the night. You can keep repeating one surah for an hour if you want. You can repeat Surah Al-Qari'ah for a whole hour, for one rak'ah. Just keep repeating Surah Al-Qari'ah. What's the problem with that? Some of the Sahaba, some of the early Muslims, the Prophet ﷺ, Aisha radhiyallahu anha, they're all narrations that they would recite one ayah for hours upon hours. Just get up and then make long ruku', long sujood. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you with your situation. So, can we all agree that this is part of our solution for the next time we have a problem? And those of us who have whatever kind of problem this time, can we make that a solution? Is it that difficult really? Allah Azza wa Jal is asking. I always give the example, if the richest guy in Toronto comes and says, look, you have problems, what monetary problems, just ask, say whatever amount I'll give you. He's like, Wallahi, jazakallah khair, ya akhi. The total comes up to, long story short, $55,000. This is a guy that Allah provided for him. But Allah Azza wa Jal in His greatness is asking, who may I ask so I may give him? And we're sleeping. So brothers, sisters, jazakumullah khair, make this part of your solution. For whatever problem you have currently, or for whatever problem you may have in the future. Wake up in the last third of the night. But you know what? Again, even in the last third of the night, it's not magic. You might have to wake up in the second day and in the third day and ask Allah Azza wa Jal again and again. But in the world of instant gratification, we want even the dua to be responded to quickly. And the thing is, we don't dictate when Allah Azza wa Jal chooses to respond to you. That's up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you wait and you constantly make dua and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, يُسْتَجَابُ لِأَحَدِكُمْ مَا لَمْ يَعْجَلْ. The Prophet said that you will be answered to, you will be responded to your dua, so long as you don't rush. So then they asked him, how do you rush the dua? How do you rush? You say, I asked and I asked and I got nothing. So the Prophet ﷺ said, you will be given the response as long as you don't rush it. So you'll be given the response as long as you don't say, I asked and I asked, I still didn't get anything. Then you won't be given anything. But you see how instant gratification can affect our dua? Everybody with me? Yeah? So People are used to things happening quickly, and so now they ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they don't get an answer, they start to go and look for all other kinds of magical things, magical solutions. And that's why you have these weird books now that have a dua for everything. And the book will promise things like, if you say this, immediately this will happen. And if you say that, immediately that would happen. If you think there was a dua like that, there would be problems in the world. Anyone had a problem, just let me find that ridiculous book. Here, let me say this, okay, great. Everything's fixed. That's not how it is. We cry, we ask Allah Azza wa Jal, we persevere, we're persistent in asking Allah Azza wa Jal. But because of instant gratification, we want things to happen quickly. One example I always give is one formula, which is, of course, is false. All right? They tell you that anything you want to happen, if you recite Al-Fatiha 1,000 times at night, it will happen immediately. Anything you want. Brother is not married, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen, rahman rahim. In the morning you'll be married. It's, of course, no need to say, there's no such thing, there's no evidence to that, there's no hadith, it's just gibberish. And the good news is most people who attempt that, they fall asleep before finishing that. Maybe somebody can do the math, how long it takes to recite the Fatiha once, and then how many minutes, times 1,000, is it even possible within one night? But people will believe things like that, they'll try it until they fall asleep. They'll try it. Why? Because they want these instant things, magical things. If you go to the Muslim lands, if somebody has some kind of problem, what do? Where's one place they go? Who can tell us? One kind of person they go to. Somebody said it, I think. The sahir, yeah? Not a good sheikh. A sheikh, A guy will go and he'll start invocations, and something will come, a big red thing will come out, and then... So, why? The jinn always going for these weird solutions, and they'll give you a little bit of thing, you burn it, and you put the ashes on top of your head, and you climb and sit on top of a tree until it rains, and then it will happen for you. Why? Because people want instant gratification. They don't have patience for these kinds of things.
His thoughts of Allah and Judgment Day.
Allah will be with you. Be mindful of Allah, Allah will be mindful of you. Be mindful of Allah, you will find Allah with you. Get to know Allah in moments of ease, Allah will know you in moments of difficulty. And then the more closer you become to Allah, because Allah becomes your eye which you see with, and your ear which you hear with, and your hand which you use, and your foot that you walk with. And if you ask Allah, Allah will give you, and if you seek refuge in Him, He will help you.
Blessed is He.
Allahumma adkhilna fi rahmatik. Ya Allah, we ask you for your mercy.
Fortunate is He.
We are in dire need for the mercy of Allah.
Blessed is He.
We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us those who will reach the Jannah.